Hey everyone, I want to do a video on the Epstein list, okay? And Pam Bondi, that everybody is mad about because she apparently gave the impression that she was going to be releasing a list, and she was going to be releasing all the investigation files, and she hasn't come through, okay? So the question now becomes why? What is she hiding? Who is she trying to protect? So I'm just kind of like thinking this through, right? And the reality of the situation is that Epstein probably had a very extensive contact list, right? Probably upwards of 10,000 people, in his either Rolodex or in his phone, as maybe even as potential clients that would be on that list. Where if Bondi were to just release this list out there, well, now all of a sudden, like his electrician, his plumber, his neighbor, his travel agent, they're all on this list, trying to explain what their relationship was or their lack of relationship might have been. Okay, and I put myself in that situation. My phone number, right, goes back 25 years. Okay, I've had the same phone number that I use for business, and every time I upgrade my phone, I basically just carry all the contacts forward. So I looked up the number of contacts in my phone before I did this video, and it's more than 4,000 contacts. Okay, and 90% of them I don't even know who they are. Okay, they're probably people I just met for once. They might have said, hey, he's an electrician, or he does this, or he's a plumber, or I took the number, I put it in my phone. I probably never even called them. Okay, so imagine if I was accused of some heinous crime that involved lots of other co-conspirators, right? And I came under investigation, right? FBI, let's say, arrests me, they confiscate my phone. Now they got this giant list of contacts, 4,000 plus people. So what they will normally do is, okay, especially if it's a case that involves lots of co-conspirators, they're going to go down the list and they're going to look at, okay, number of times called, how frequently, from what, and they're just going to basically they're going to start scratching people off, right? Especially people that haven't called frequently, maybe people that are, on the other side of the country or in a different state. So like, in a situation like that, probably 99, if I have a phone list of 9,000 people, 4,000 people, and I was committing crimes, 99% of them in my contact list were probably not involved in these so-called, involved with these crimes that I might have been committing. Okay, so I have a feeling that's the case with this Epstein list. I'm sure that there's an Epstein list because I'm sure the guy had a phone, and I'm sure there were like probably 10,000 phone numbers and contacts, in his phone. Okay, or maybe the guy had a Rolodex. I mean, maybe he was old school. He had a Rolodex on his desk. Okay, he's probably had thousands and thousands of people there. So it doesn't seem fair, right? And it doesn't seem right for the FBI to just take this guy's entire contact list out of his phone and just dump it out there and say, okay, here you go. That's the Epstein list. These are all the names that were in his phone. Okay, and meanwhile you got like, you guys electrician, you guys plumber, you guys accountant, you guys lawyer, you guys hairstylist, you got the guy that tailors his suits, all these people, yeah, they're in his phone, right? They're on the Epstein list, but they've got nothing to do with any crimes he would have committed. So I think that's the reason why I think they can't just dump this, just dump this list of names that he might have had as contacts, or even during the course of the investigation, maybe they selected a few of those people to go out and actually question, right? Maybe his neighbors, right? Relatives, right? Who again maybe didn't know anything about what he was doing, but as part of the normal course of an investigation, hey, these are people that either lived close to him or he did frequent business with, right? It might have been his, like I said, it might have been his electrician that went there a couple times a year, or the guy that services his air conditioner, right? You might have called him a couple times a year. Well, yeah, normal course of the investigation, they're gonna question those people just because there were multiple calls going out to those people. But it wouldn't make sense to just like, you know, if you dump the entire investigation list and all of a sudden it's like, okay, we questioned this guy, that guy, you know, but they didn't know anything. Yeah, but now, you know what? You got their names out there, and now their friends, their family, their neighbors are questioning their involvement with this guy. You know, meanwhile, the only thing that they did for him was like, you know, change the oil in his car or something, okay? So, anyway, something for you guys to think about. I do think that Bondi handled this wrong. Like, she just should have came out from the beginning and just said what I said, right? That it is, which is, I think, extremely likely and extremely logical that this guy has a gigantic contact list, probably more than 10,000 people, right? And like 99.9% of them never went to this island of his, okay? Or even if they did, they might have went there on the week that he was having maybe, you know, wives and kids, right? Because it's you know, if he's got this private island, he's not necessarily committing a crime every day of the week with everybody that goes to the island, right? There might have been, you know, in fact, I would say that it's very likely that he probably had certain weeks where, you know, he was just inviting business associates with their families and kids, and it was a families and kids week, okay? So, again, now, you know, those people, again, you can't just take these people and just dump their names out there as having gone to Epstein's Island when you know, they just went there with the wives and kids, right, during Wives and Kids Week. So anyway, I'm just throwing some stuff out there. I do think Pam Bondi handled this wrong. Like, she just came out and explained everything that I just told you guys, because it is very likely that this is the case, okay? Because I'm sure, I mean, the guy was running a business, you know, I think he was in the finance business, so it's very likely that he had, like, the majority of the people that he did business with was, you know, was probably in that finance industry, and most of them probably never went to that island to commit crimes. But again, I think that Pam Bondi should have explained the logic of everything I just told you guys, rather than just try to hide it and say, hey, there's no list and that's it, we're not talking about it anymore. Just explain the logic of this situation. And like I said, I've got a phone with like 4,000 plus contacts on it, and like 99% of them, I don't even know who they are, okay? Because, you know, I might have put them in my phone like more than 25 years ago. So, anyway, I'll talk to you all soon.